Welcome, everybody. Hi, my name's Brian Hilton. I am the product marketing manager here at Cantaloupe. We will get started in just a couple moments here. Um, while some folks are still joining, love to just give a little bit of an introduction. We're happy to have you here for our webinar on how remote price change, our tool within Seed Pro, how that can revolutionize your operation. Remote price change, again, is an add-on tool within our Seed Pro vending management software. And you may have noticed a poll as you joined today asking about the challenges facing you as a vending operator in our industry today. These challenges are real and are shared across the industry, and many of your fellow operators who have joined today face them as well. Yet we're excited because we've seen how remote price change enables operators to face these challenges in a winning way. And we'll obviously have more on that shortly. So whether you currently use Seed Pro, you're exploring your options, whether you use remote price change already and are just looking for some additional tips and tricks, or you're considering if the tool is right for you. We're really happy to have you here today, and we hope that you leave with an understanding of how remote price change can be a game changer for your business. We don't want you to take our word for it here at Cantaloupe. However, of course, we want you to hear from your fellow vending operators as they describe their experience with the tool. And we're joined by Shawn and Patrick. Shawn Dayton is the operations manager for Canteen of Northern California, and he began using Seed and remote price change this past spring. Patrick is the president of Sheen Brothers Vending in Ohio and is a longtime user of both Seed and RPC. And I'll let Shawn and Patrick introduce themselves and their businesses in a little bit of more detail later. But they're excited to offer honest advice for operators considering RPC, best practices for dealing with product cost increases, and describe life before RPC and after adding the tool. Jason Pardue from our team, the senior manager of our client solutions team, and our resident Seed and RPC expert, he'll also be joining to give additional insight on how to get started with the tool and to really utilize it. Jason, Shawn, and Patrick have over 56 years of combined industry experience across all levels of an operation. So you guys are really in good hands, and I've learned quite a bit from all of them as we've chatted about, the webinar in preparation. So as far as an agenda, what will we be covering today? Jason will start by describing at a high level what remote price change, or RPC, is. Then we'll hear from Shawn and Patrick to describe the need that RPC has met for their businesses, really the landscape which we find ourselves in today in our industry. Jason will then share how operators can take advantage of this tool. Shawn and Patrick will follow up by sharing some tips and strategies they have when considering and using remote price change. And then lastly, we'll have a Q&A session where you can type questions into the Q&A option on your Zoom panel and send them in for Jason, Shawn, and Patrick. Please note that you don't have to wait for the Q&A portion to send in your questions. If at any point during the discussion a question arises, feel free to just submit those and we'll get to them at the end as we have time. So with that, let's get started. Jason, I will pass it over to you to talk through what RPC is at a high level.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're at. So what does it do? So we have two places that we see pricing in a machine inside the Seed catalog. One is what we're getting back from the device as far as what is the DEX price, what it's actually selling for at the machine. And the second one is the desired price. So the price that you desire that particular item to sell through at what cost. And that desired price is really what drives the RPC. And what it allows you to do is to change that desired price and then push that price the back end of seed. So from wherever you're at, whether you're on the beach like me or in your office, at home, wherever you may be, you're able to change those prices on the back end of seed. As long as you have an internet connection, you can get on, change those prices, desired price in seed, and then either hit your update button, push that pricing, it'll ping the device. When the device reports back in, it'll then send out the new price change to that particular coil or multiple sets of coils. And really, it's either one click. We also have it set up so if you wanted to do a mass quantity of price changes, you can also go in and do that in a bulk import. So you can actually run all different types of reports, bring desired price out, bulk change many prices at one time. There's one small setting on the asset in seed. And again, you can either change those, turn them on or off of which devices or which machines you want to allow RPC to be utilized on. Or you can do it in bulk as well. So get biggest bang for your buck. And then the question is who can use it, right? So really any seed user that has either seed devices or e-port devices out in the field today, uh, Cantaloupe in utilizing seed as their back end office.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. And I think, it's a powerful tool, as you mentioned here, with the ability to change prices remotely with just a few clicks. Let's talk through why this tool is needed, right? The industry, the landscape that we find ourselves in. Are you able just to kind of chat through, just in general at a high level, some of the things facing our industry today?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a lot of things, particularly starting, in 2020 when COVID came around. A lot of things changed for the world as a whole. To be honest, here in the U.S. where I'm at, you got inflation. The cost of everything has gone up. The cost of fuel, the cost of an oil change on your vehicles, the cost of labor itself. All of those things have gone up. You have constant rising of product costs, and we've always seen this, but we've seen this probably at its steepest incline, probably in my lifetime, and I'm pretty old. So we've seen product costs going up so rapidly and so repetitively. So you see the same products where you get a price increase on that product, and before you can ever get out there to do anything about it, you're getting the next price increase on that same product again. And then labor and labor supply challenges, right? So getting the right people into your company, it's kind of changed as far as labor goes. And I don't want to be derogatory, but the view of the way I think America once operated and the way it operates today, a lot of people see coming to work every day is not a high priority in their life, and so that really changes how we bring people aboard and what people are available to come to work and which ones want to show up to work. So I think all three of these things have a huge impact on how do I get out and still do all the things that I need to do, right? The cost of everything I do has gone up, from the labor costs are going up, my product costs are going up, my operational costs in general, fuel wear and tear on my vehicles, the gas to keep my building warm, the air conditioner, all of those things are all going up. And then how do you turn around and move that over to bring in more revenue, or even to stay level with the revenue at the end of the day as far as the P&L goes? And the way to get at that, really, RPC brings in a tool that really opens up the doors for you to be able to keep up on that type of stuff and be able to transform the pricing out in the marketplace that you have with simple pushes of buttons versus sending people out to physically have to go and touch every single one of these assets to change those prices. Right? It's a quick way to drive pricing without adding to that labor supply challenge problem you may already have or see today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jason. And I think Shawn and Patrick, you guys will dive into how these things have specifically impacted your businesses. And that's really what we'll do next. We'll see the life before RPC and then the life after RPC, for both Shawn and Patrick. So Shawn, I'll turn it over to you. Um, would love for you to kind of describe yourself, describe your business in a little more detail, and then chat through that a little bit. What the kind of where you were prior to adding RPC. And then we'll hear from same thing from Patrick.
Yeah, sounds good. Hello all. My name is Shawn Dayton. The third generation of canteen franchise in Northern California. And my grandfather started it back in 1970. And it's just been kind of in the family business. I've gotten more involved over the last, 8 to 10 years in the business and really kind of taken over. Life before RPC was one of we were always constantly behind the 8 ball on price increases. We were always kind of chasing the cost of goods increase, and then once we were finally getting to a point where we would start doing the price increases, it would take us a good long while to get them completed. In 2020 and 2021, where we saw like the crazy cost of goods increases on a regular basis, we went through our field and we basically increased every item 25 cents. It took us about 6 months to get that 25-cent price increase done to all 600 of our machines, just based on realistic expectations of drivers and service technicians and everything else going out there. And after we did that 25 cents, we ran some numbers, and with the cost of goods increases and the timeline it took, we really only kept about 19 cents of that. So it was just becoming more glaringly obvious how necessary and pertinent it was to kind of like stay up to date with the pricing. It can really get away from you quickly. Another thing that we had, another issue we dealt with before RPC was the angry customers, the complaints on the price increases. They would see a service technician go in with no product, open up the machines, fiddle around with the software and the buttons, make some noise, and then they would leave and they'd realize like, oh, there's no new product in the machine, just the same stuff went up in price. So those were something that we were constantly kind of dealing with. And price stickers, those were one of the, it's just one more thing for the driver to forget to change if they do the price change on the single row. So the machine price would say something different than the visual price. It would allow the customers to kind of like go up to the machine, see the pricing, and walk away without engaging. Where now we've gotten rid of all of those. We have a nice little sticker on there that says press selection display cash discount price, which it encourages interaction with the unit and the machine to kind of like help solidify the process. If they're pushing the buttons enough to find the price, they're already halfway there to their sale. And then you're having this interaction with it all. About 2 years ago, we kind of realized when we made the transition from we're leaving VenMax, we kind of realized we hit the ceiling with what that program could provide for us. And when we were shopping the VMS systems, remote price change was a key factor for us because of all the things I just said right there. And ultimately, that was one of the deciding factors for why we went and switched over to the Seed Pro program. So that was, I was told by the salesman, like, yeah, it works. You should do it. You should check it out. And I'm kind of one of those that I kind of need to see with my own eyes. So I flew down to another canteen franchise in Southern California and spent the day with them, kind of like watching it, the dynamic scheduling, making a planogram change, changing that price. And I left the office that day. I called my uncle and I said, we just found our VMS software, and haven't looked back since. So that's kind of been what has led us up to this point now.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. I'm excited just to, again, as we kind of, once we transition into the after, to hear about that and your experience with after the switch. So
yeah.
Obviously we're super happy about that. Patrick, would love to hear excuse me, I know some of these challenges you also have faced. Would love to hear kind of a little bit more about your side of things and your experience with life before RPC.
Yeah, hi everyone. Patrick Sheen, president of Sheen Brothers Vending. We're located in Springfield, Ohio, and service Southwest and Central Ohio. We have about 24 routes that service about $31 million in annual revenue. 50% of that anymore is micro markets, but still 30% of that is vending machines. We still have a lot of fresh food vending machines out on the street, and probably have a total of 1,200 vending machines. Cantaloupe's been a great partner for GM Brothers and really gave all operators a chance to be, profitable with the technology they brought to the industry. And there's nothing. This is just another great tool that is making us more competitive and able to be more profitable. So excited to talk to you guys about it today. Yeah, I can voice a lot of the same challenges as Shawn and probably other operators have when trying to get prices increased out on the street. All my drivers are actually paid on commission. In Ohio, we're allowed to do that, and it's always, we found, one of the best incentive package for us with route drivers. So, you would think raising their prices a quarter on some of their best selling products, like a bottle of 20-ounce soda, you run those, before we would run those price exception reports out of Seed, you're printing off a physical piece of paper or getting a PDF and emailing it to the driver's phone and sharing that with them, and having them, just stop at each machine during their service and increase the price. And if there's stickers, back in the day, like we used to have, they're having to swap out stickers. There's, different types of equipment that they might not be trained on to, change the price, especially if they're a newer driver. So it would just take way too long. Like, 6 months sounds about right, Shawn, to get completely done on any major increase before. And now it's with the click of a button. So really, it was just a huge pain point for us, especially when we had stickers. Maybe the sticker wasn't always matching the price in the machine that the customer was seeing, and that would, result in an upset customer. And really, a lot of times, what we had to do was, okay, we're just doing a major increase. We are going to send an extra set of hands, a floater, a group leader, a repair tech in the zone out that you're paying hourly. And instead of doing their day-to-day job, you're pulling them off on this project just to get it done. Even when we're paying the drivers on commission, and they have every incentive in the world to raise the prices at their account. So, all that costs more than just, compensation. It's wear and tear on the vehicles. With gas prices the way they are, you're making extra trips to these stops, and it was just a really big pain point for us. And it was a big pain point for us, and we didn't even realize it when we were getting price increases normally, like once a year, very small increases. Now you're getting massive historic increases quarterly. So the timing of this, could not be better for our industry, and it's just been a godsend for us. So, those were definitely our biggest pain points before RPC existed in vending, and excited to talk to you guys today about some of the successes we've seen, implementing it so far.
Yeah, thanks guys. And yeah, I know, I think you both shared, was it Hershey specifically, like Hershey products, or I know Red Bull was another one that it was like, just, you couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I know
Hershey and Mars have, all been taking advantage of inflation, and now the new culprit is Frito-Lay. A lot of people probably just recently got Frito-Lay increases. They're, historic, in size and in frequency. So it's, these suppliers in our industry, they're going to take advantage of it, and we have to. It's more important now than ever to get your pricing right out in the field.
Yeah, yes. So let's kind of transition here into to life after RPC and the benefits. And Shawn, I think we'll start with you. I'll hand it over to you first. Yeah, life after RPC, kind of what that has looked like for you guys once you made that switch in the spring from Crane. You know, kind of how that's benefited you guys.
Yeah, it's benefited almost every avenue and facet of our business. We're able to we grew our bottom line. We're able to stay ahead of it. For one example, like first week of October, beginning of Q4, Vistar sends over their invoice. I go through it. I see the price increases on the products. I highlight the invoice with the green marker. And by Thursday, my field was completely adjusted. I'm sitting at about a 90% compatibility rate for the RPC. So I did kind of a combination of what Jason was referring to earlier. Like we'd go through and tweak some accounts that we can, either if we were on like a pricing structure or a management schedule with them. The rest of our field was just an import Excel export, doctor it all up, throw an import in, and the next thing you know, your machines are being changed. We've joked around this year that switching over to seed and with RPC, it's like the year of our bottom line. Like we're finally like getting a grasp of that bottom line. And you know, top line sales are fantastic and everything, but the bottom line is what pays our employees, what allows us to invest in ourselves and just stay relevant in the field and the industry we're in. Eliminated customer complaints. This was a huge one for us. With RPC, they no longer see a service technician or a driver going in there and like messing with the machine settings or the buttons or anything like that. We kind of coordinate our price changes towards the later afternoon. Our largest sales time is from about 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. That captures when they get there, they buy coffee, a drink, a snack before lunch, yada, yada, yada. And so we do our price changes right around between 2 and 3 p.m. And those take place with the DEX reporting and everything else, usually like right as everyone's starting to leave for the day. So when they come in the next morning, the prices are increased. They never saw anyone go there. Everyone using the tap pay function or their credit card as much as they are now with our cashless sales at 80% of our business, then, you know, they're not even really paying attention to it all. And we have 493 machines, with the remote price change feature that we use regularly. And we have not received a single call or complaint about that feature, which is, you know, something that I honestly thought was kind of impossible to hit. Definitely, like my father and uncle definitely thought that we were like, get ready, we're going to be getting, you know, phone calls, we're doing price raises. You know, you almost feel like you got to go in with your hat like, please sir, you know, can I get the prices I need? And now that's no longer there. And then kind of like what I was referring to with like the interaction with the machine, it gets the customer that much closer to, you know, touch the machine, look at it. They're almost committing as they do that and interact with the machine. Another big piece was, you know, just the two-tier pricing and being able to account for that with all of that digital pricing. You know, it's just, I don't want to go back to life before the RPC thing. And this isn't you know, like a salesman throwing you guys a pitch here. This is genuine and real. Like it works. We've kept up with our costs. Our candy is now sitting at $1.75 minus the managed accounts. So we were able to take that massive Hershey and Mars increase. We take that, you know, it used to be once a year, 3 to 4.5% increase from Pepsi and the bottlers and stuff that comes. And now it's like closer to 4.5%, 5.5%. And they do it sometimes every 6 months. Going back to what Patrick said with Frito, like, my prices are matching where it's at, and the ease of doing it is so fast. And it's just, you know, it saves so much money. We our gas this morning was $5.49 a gallon for the cheapest at the pump when I filled up. And you got to think just about all the money and cost savings there. Those are the key pieces to it for sure.
Yeah, and Shawn, I think there's a lot to take away there. I think the thing that stands out to me so much is going from 6 months to a couple days in terms
Totally.
of, having that adjustment made, and just the implications of that. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And obviously we're really happy to hear that. Patrick, kind of same thing for you. How has RPC benefited Sheehan Brothers?
Yeah, I would say same thing as Shawn. This is going to be a record. We've been in business 68 years, and this is going to be a record year in both growth, but also bottom line, which is the most important thing that sometimes it's funny to say, but people don't really pay attention to. People get so enamored with that top line revenue, and it's like a sickness in our industry, kind of, and it kind of always has been. It doesn't matter if you're bringing in $20,000 in annual revenue at account if it's costing you more than that. So this is the way to be profitable and do things the right way. We found we figured that out through micro markets very quickly. Not having the prices posted. Okay, so people aren't going to be as mad, when we change the prices. And just being able to click a button and 15 minutes later all the pricing is up to date in market. So we saw, the whole industry saw the benefits of that with markets, and now we get to enjoy that same process and better margins, quicker margins in vending. So it without a doubt makes you way more profitable. I'm sure, just like Sheen Brothers, most of you have always felt like you just can't get ahead of your pricing, even when it wasn't quarterly price increases and it was only small annual ones. So now, if you don't have these processes in place, you're never going to get in front of it the right way. I truly feel it's been one of the best returns on investment we've implemented recently. So we have our own commissary too, and even without inflation and large increases on things like drinks and snacks, our food pricing was changing the most always, and now even more so. So we really saw a huge benefit for it on our food machines, because ingredients and those recipes, the packaging, there's just so many elements to making a piece of fresh food that can change the cost of that item without notice too in your commissaries. You're going to get notices on your drinks and snacks more. On your food and your recipes like that, it's no notice. It's here's the invoice, and it's now $1 more for this slice of cheese than it was when we delivered it last week. And so on food machines and vending, we do a lot of AMS, first in, first out. For our fresh food, we don't do any of the 432s anymore. I think we might have one or two left out on the street, but we're primarily AMS, and it has been just a godsend for that. So I couldn't ever imagine going back to the days of printing off physical price exception reports or emailing those out to drivers and asking them to pay themselves more, by raising the prices. And even if you aren't doing RPC, just taking the stickers off the machines, I could not, recommend that more. No, we did that, and we were scared of, what's the customer going to say? And out of 1,200 vending machines, we might have had 10 vending machines between two accounts that said something about it. And we just said we're not offering it anymore, and it's part of a green initiative to not have the stickers and the plastic stickers in the machines. So pricing in this, what is good about this time is people are expecting these increases because they're seeing it on the news. So now is the time to strike. If you're not getting your prices up now during this time and you wait, and then it goes back to how we're all used to operating, where you could lose business over a 10-cent increase on a thing of crackers, then you're never going to get ahead of it. So now is the time to strike, and the way to do it we truly think is with RPC when it comes to your vending machines. It's a no-brainer. At one product increase, one major product increase, like a 20 ounce, a 12 ounce, an LSS bag of chips, pastry, even candy, all it takes is one increase for you to get that you go and implement via RPC instead of doing it the way you're doing it now, and you've paid for that investment.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, and I think the worth and the value in terms of, and you guys both talked about this, protecting your bottom line, especially when these increases are cutting into it so much. And if you can pay for a product that does that, and it's paid for with one product increase, it's definitely quite a strategic move. So we're happy to hear that. So in terms of, okay, RPC is great, a lot of benefits. Obviously, we've talked about that. For those of you who aren't necessarily on RPC yet, maybe you're on seed, but you don't have RPC yet, might wonder, okay, well, how do I get started? Shawn mentioned a 90% compatibility rate. Kind of what's the compatibility requirement to be able to use RPC? Jason, I will turn it over to you now to discuss compatibility and how really an operator can get started with RPC.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Shawn and Patrick, for all your insight, and I can attest to all those things as an operator, going through the battles of changing prices. And as an operator, I used to have the saying, as an operator, we said, the person out doing price increases was making more money for the company than anybody else, hands down, because you were constantly chasing those. And the battles with customers, as they see you come in, they start yelling and screaming at you, because once they hear the beep 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 beep, of the prices being changed, they know what's going on, and they're like, "Hey, boycott the vending machine! They're changing the prices again." And so all those things. It's crazy to think about the technology and where we've come. And the other side of it is, one of the things, as you guys talked through it, I was thinking about was, we are literally the only industry there in the retail side that asks anybody if it's okay if we raise their prices, right? I mean, Bucky's down the road for me. They don't ask if they can change my gas prices on me. They just do it, and I gotta consume it. The Kroger down the street didn't ask if they could take my chicken breast from 99 cents a pound to $2.99 a pound, or whatever it is today. They just do it. And we've really only kind of been that industry that we've never been able to take advantage of that. And I think part of that is because of having to be on site and doing the price changes and the labels and all those things, expose pieces in our industry that people pay attention to. And once you kind of remove that exposure and you have the cashless side of it, people, like you said, Shawn, don't really realize prices even change. They're walking up, tapping, sliding their card, whatever it might be. They don't even know that it went up, 10 cents, 15 cents, 25 cents overnight. And so it's a huge, huge blessing to be able to go out, be able to do what everybody else does, all the other industries have been able to do. What we started being able to do once micro markets became such big in our industry as well. So now you got the micro market side where you can do it at any point. You got the vending side, you can do it at any point. That's huge. So how do you get to that point and start utilizing it, right? First part is the RPC device. So ePort devices, all of our ePort devices to date, G9, G10, G11s, the Engages, all work with remote price change. RPC supported machines. So we've gone and tackled the mass majority of the most popular machines. And the way we tackled that was working with the machine suppliers, right? The manufacturers of the machines, Crane, Dixie, Narco, Vendo, working with them on getting the proper settings in place, and then looking at firmware upgrades where we needed to figure that out. So part of the RPC is the device itself. The next part is the machine compatibility. Most of the machines out in the field are RPC compatible. There's in some places you have some firmware updates that will then make that machine compatible. But what we have done is we've actually created a page on Seed, and anybody that has Seed today, whether you've signed up for RPC or not, this RPC compatibility page is exposed to you. So what it allows you to actually do is to look at right now before you even go and get RPC. Where am I at, and what do I need to do out in the field? And there's multiple pieces to look at, right? One is the green bar at the top, which is, hey, show me all the ones that are currently compatible. And you can click right into that on the bar. It'll show you all the machines that are compatible. You have the device RPC supported with the green check mark, means the device is supported and it's ready to go. And you have the machine RPC supported. And what we've done is we've actually put together an algorithm that feeds back into a database that we have that tells you what actually needs to happen right on this page. And so the ones that are 100% compatible, you're already there, right? So everything that if you click on the green bar, in this case, it's 89%, which is a good rate to have. Those are ones that are 100% compatible, both the device and the machine. The ones with the wrench on them, where, hey, if I do a little bit of tweaking on, right, maybe it's a firmware on the machine, maybe it's the device just needs to get updated firmware to it. And there's some of those cases. And then I have the 9% that are not compatible. And that's typically looking at the incompatibility would be, crane devices on there, right? Boop, that's going to make you incompatible, right? Swap out that crane device though, and now I got a compatible machine and a compatible device. And so those are the things to look at, right? And you can look at that today on the Seed web. We'll break it all down for you. We'll also tell you what firmware you need to update to. So if you have a machine out in the field where the device is compatible today, but the machine just needs firmware, we'll tell you what version of the firmware to go up to. It'll be right on the note on the summary page over to the right. If it's a vendor's exchange board that currently is not compatible just because you need firmware, that's a flash drive you can get directly from vendor exchange. Go out, put in the new firmware, the 7.7.3, flash it, up to date. Now I'm 100% compatible, right? So you can really kind of break this out into a couple of chunks. One is working with CSM team, right, in the Seed team. So there'll be initially, when you start looking, you're going to see devices that the door code updated, which is caught in the SD1 field on the DEX file, and we can remote update that SD1 field. So we've come up with a way to write back to that, to open that up, to allow us to then write that pricing back to the machine. We can do that with a really quick update on our side. Typically overnight, you'll see most of those, if not all of those, drop right off the list. So that's a really quick change where you can look at those as actually being compatible if you want to know from our side today. Quick change, really fast to do. The other one is device firmware. So if it's got an E-port on it today, but the device needs firmware, we'll just pull a mass list. We'll update, send out firmware out to all those devices, update those. Those are typically within overnight or the next day, as long as the device is reporting in. Those will all get updated and those are ready to go. So really the focus from operator perspective is, hey, do I got E-ports out on my machines to be able to make them compatible devices? And then the other one is just firmware on machines for the most part. Now there's some incompatible machines. If you got an original, AP111 out there with the original board and you're not using caches on it, it's only telemetry, that's not going to work because you can't push back through that. But for most cases, most machines today are compatible. We are still working with some of the machine manufacturers on a few machines that we've run into snags on, but those are coming up to date. We just did a big push on the 501Es that we're rolling out, and that's going to all come out and up to date where we've done a bunch of fixes of those as well. But it's really a simple process, and part of that process is looking at this compatibility page. To me, this is huge. It exposes a lot of data, tells you exactly what you need to do. and where you are in the compatibility of machines and or devices, and then what can I do to fix the ones where I might have some issues, firmware on the device, firmware on the machine, whatever that might be. So we've done I think a really good job of exposing that data here. This page can be exported out as well. Just click on the symbol in the upper right corner. You can't see it on the screenshot here, but you can click on that. It'll bring it right out to you, and then you can just filter down on that summary and figure out where you need to be at on all those different pieces to get them up to date.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And one quick note here. Obviously, we've blurred out some of the details here. This is an operator's real compatibility report shared with their permission. It's not going to be blurred out when you look at it, of course. That's just for their privacy. But I know, Jason, you mentioned the yellow column, and I think a lot of the folks on this call who are Seed Pro operators might see that, that yellow number's significant, and that's not a bad thing. Like there aren't it's easier to get into that green column than you might think, and we will work with you if you're interested in that to help you do that. I know, Shawn, you've mentioned obviously swapping out your crane devices. Jason alluded to that. Patrick, I know you updated the boards on your fresh food machines. So these are things that are, again, there's some legwork involved, but ultimately it's an investment that comes with a return, hopefully much greater than the original investment.
Yeah, Brian, and like you said, that's a continuous return. Once you've got that compatibility, somebody hits you with a price increase, I can deal with that quickly. And that ability to turn that pricing around when I get those increases, there's not an added cost to that. I mean, if you think about the cost to go out and actually do physical price increases today with fuel where it's at and wear and tear on the vehicle, oil changes, all those things that you have, plus the cost of labor, it's expensive to go out and do it. If you were to put some numbers to it, on a per machine basis, it's actually quite expensive if you think about it. And so the small investment for something like a piece of firmware for a machine, right? That's minute in comparison. It's a one-time thing. Once it's there, it's just lather, rinse, and repeat for price increases, right? And it makes it really simple. As Shawn and Patrick have talked about, and they've both done multiple price increases. You can get hit with one of the beverage suppliers, and they hit you with a price increase, and then all of a sudden, Red Bull comes in behind them and does it. Well, I was just at that machine. So if you physically went to that machine and did all your 20 ounce in that machine, but you had Red Bull in it and you didn't touch that, now you're going back because Red Bull just followed up. So now I've had to go to that machine 2 times just to keep even, right? And then, talking on top of, both of them, hit a good point, is that bottom line. And really the bottom line is what allows you to reinvest in your company to then expand and grow that company and that business, and both of these young men, I'll call them young men just because they're much younger than me. Both of these young men as operators, right? They've grown up in this industry, and it's been passed down to generations. And now they're both operating these companies, managing these businesses that their families started in the beginning. And I'm sure they want to pass it to the future, right? And the way to do that is building that bottom line. That bottom line has become so valuable. And Patrick made a really good point. Now's the time to strike, right? Because right now it's probably easier than any other time to get those price increases because everything is going up. But you also have to. It's a must-have. If you don't get those prices up, you're not gonna survive. You're draining. If that bottom line goes to nothing, you're just basically, you just have pass-through money. Whatever money's coming in is going right back out to pay the bills, and you don't run a business based on that. And it's a bad way to look at running an operation. Yeah, cash flow can look good, and it can be a lot of cash flow. But if that cash flow doesn't have any money that actually stays in the bank account, it just turns around and goes right back out to pay the bills. You're not making any money. and you can't operate that way. You can't keep reinvesting in your company. You can't buy new equipment. There's all these things that we got to pay for as operators, and that bottom line is giant, to look at.
Yeah, certainly. That's a really good point, Jason. And so I think in terms of getting started, all right, say, kind of done the work in terms of getting for some of the yellow to the green, or maybe you have some green and you want to move forward with RPC. Let's chat just about that implementation process. Jason, are you able to kind of walk us through what it looks like in terms of getting started with RPC?
Yeah, so our sales team gets involved first. Always, there's going to be some form of an agreement made between seed and the operator. Sales team gets involved, and then there's a pass off to the CSM team, which is the team that I manage. And again, there's some of, and I don't want to talk about bad about anybody else, but there's some of the industry's finest. Shawn and Patrick have both worked with the CSM team. My team is very professional, very well skilled. We've all been in the industry, right? We've all been operators or owned our own company. And so we've been in that. We understand the pain points and how to operate, as well as the back end of seed. And so we have a handoff between the sales team where that agreement's signed, CSM takes over, help you prepare for that, right? So we'll do a lot of the legwork, especially from the seed side of the house on the compatibility, getting all the door codes switched. We'll do that immediately, getting all the device list together for you, getting that put in for any updates that you need for firmware, help you put that together, and then help you lay out, how to tackle those other machines, but also the best way to, and how do you want to go about it, right? Because there's a lot of different ways to look at doing that. Do you run it based on a margins report, right? Where's my lowest margins? Do I tackle that first and hit that? What machines do I turn on for RPC? Which ones do I not turn on immediately? And so those are all things that the team will help walk through with you. Seed's got a lot of valuable reporting that you can run to look at different ways to look at where your business stands today. And then also talk about, when those things come in that Shawn and Patrick have both talked about, hey, I'm getting hit with this new price increase from Pepsi on the 20 ounce, or Coke and Pepsi both at the same time on the 20 ounce. How do I get ahead of that pricing, right? The industry as a whole, as we operated in the past without RPC, was we get the notice, and you're typically only getting the notice, today I've heard as short as a couple of weeks time in some cases, that the notice is coming in that a price increase is coming, but typically you're getting maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Well, if it takes you 6 months to hit all your machines, you're always behind the 8 ball on that. So today it's like, hey, I'm getting a notice before that new price product ever hits my dock. I already have my price increases out into the field. So I'm way ahead of the curve on that. I'm getting my prices out. And so how do we go about tackling that, right? And the CSM team will walk you right through that process of how do we do a mass product or mass price change across, all my 20 ounce, period, right? If it's 20 ounce only, or if it's only my 12 ounce, or maybe it's, only my juice from a specific manufacturer. However that works out, or however those price increases are coming together, it's really simple to run out a report, change all the prices, import those new prices, and then allow those update prices to push right out to the machines. So there's a lot of great tools in Seed that allow you to do this stuff really quickly. Shawn, before we did this, he was talking about one of the ones, and he was like, hey, I got this thing from Vistar, the pricing went up. He said, I was immediately going in and making these changes, like I'm building my report out. I see all these, I highlighted them. I'm building my report out, and I'm going to turn around, I'm going to import that. And it's literally before my product ever leaves the dock. Price increase hit my dock. Before that product hits the field, its price increases are done, right? So getting ahead of that curve, you want to talk about the bottom line. That's the way to hit that bottom line, is you're out there before that pricing ever hits you. So, it's huge. The CSM team is super helpful. There'll be a CSM assigned to you through the process. We'll walk you right through the process. You'll have your own CSM. If they're out, we have a CSM email we give to everybody. You'll get my entire team. We're always on it. I don't ever keep our responses. Like if I see something up for more than an hour, I'm a little bit upset that we let it go that long. So we really try to stay on top of this stuff. We don't like people sitting out there, hanging with questions on things. So, the CSM team is super helpful to y'all, and we want to keep it that way. So we try to stay on top of that really quick, get somebody assigned to you. We want to walk you through the process. We want to talk to you about some of your processes. And then how do we fit this all together with how you do processes today? And so really that's where it's at. That handoff will help you prepare for it. Get all the firmware pushed out to any devices that you need. We'll talk about firmware for machines where you see firmware to get those updated. But, Shawn and Patrick, I think both, or maybe one of them talked about, do you need to really wait all your machines to be 100% compatible? I'd probably say no. They'll probably touch a little bit more about that as well, though.
Yeah, and Jason is a great overview, and I can't say it enough. Jason and his team are the best of the best. Yeah, it is not a one size fits all approach. It is a working with you, dialogue in terms of getting you what you need to maximize your business's potential. So you're in great hands throughout the implementation process and even beyond with Jason and his team. Let's move on to just some tips and strategies. So Shawn and Patrick, you guys have mentioned both of these things earlier on, but just kind of as we start to wrap up here and in the next couple minutes, we'll start our Q&A. General tips and strategies that you have for operators who are thinking about RPC, maybe already using it, things that you've found helpful. Shawn, I'll start with you, and then Patrick will go over to you, and then we'll wrap up with our Q&A.
Beautiful. Yeah. So some of the tips and strategies we used after going through and having access to, seeing your whole field's pricing and the way that they break down the product. You look at one product, you go to machines lists, and it shows you every machine that product is in, and then it shows you the price at that machine. It became very evident to me that we were very behind on some machines. Our 12-ounce sells currently, our market sales price is vending price is $1.65. And I was finding machines that we were sitting at $1.25. So, we're 40 to 65 cents behind. And I've used this tool because it's so easy and seamless with it. What I would do, instead of just doing a 30 cent, 40 cent, 50 cent price raise overnight and kind of giving that sticker shock, they will notice that 5, 10, 15, 20 cents, not a big deal. So what I would do is, like, each week I would go in and bump it 5 cents or 10 cents and kind of keep it in that margin where the customers really aren't going to be noticing that much. And all it takes is, like, Thursday afternoons, I sit down, I go through my list, I just systematically step those up. So that's been a huge thing. Doing it in the afternoons is something I could not recommend higher. Is that it keeps the heat off of you a little bit. And then the ROI impact on your bottom line. I've had conversations with other operators, and they're like, yeah, but only 4 out of my 5 machines have it. What's the point of doing it if I have to send a service tech out to do that one machine? And it's like, well, you have 80% of those machines in that bank. If the 4 or the 5 are able to do it, you can get ahead on those machines and then wait, rather than waiting for a driver to go out and do it. And because that takes time, 5 to 10, 15 minutes, depending on how many prices you're changing, what kind of machine, what kind of software. If you're going up in nickel increments on a Vendo 621, with the second and third button selection, or if you're redoing a whole glass front, you're spending time, which means that those drivers are not generating revenue, not bringing it in. They're generating potential revenue, but now they can keep hitting as many assets during an 8-hour day as possible to bring in as much revenue from their end. and you're taking care of the price increases, and you know it's done correctly. So I mean, overall, you have one person going there, you're touching it one time. Remote price change is basically the definition of efficiency. It really impacts your bottom line. I cannot stress that enough. We expected the ROI, to be the first year on doing this. I implemented Seed Pro March 29th, and we're already well and far above beyond what I thought the ROI would be. Didn't think we'd be seeing an ROI, and we're so far beyond that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so I can echo a lot of the same there. I too have talked to a lot of operators, and the majority of the feedback on it is like, well, if it's not on all of the machines, is it really worth, adding it if I still have to send someone to that location to change the price? And I think the answer is without a doubt, yes. Ask yourself the question, would your micro markets right now, would you turn that away from being able to change the price from your computer to having to go out in the field and change the price there? No, you would never under any scenario think about going backwards like that. Vending is no different. Strategizing how to implement it, I think, is important, and it's definitely not a one size fit all, but I think what's the same really for anyone, I don't care what size your operation is, with something new like this, is to start small and get exposure to it, and then learn from what went well and what maybe didn't go well, and implementing it on a small piece of your business before you roll it out everywhere. So just like anything, we'll roll it out to maybe one of our 24 routes. We did the same thing with RBC, get some exposure to it, see how it worked, see what we had to do. And then as soon as we felt better about it, that's where the strategy, came into play even more. The first thing we realized from that is like, wow, this is amazing for fresh food machines. So, without a doubt, we're going to roll it out to every single, route moving forward, but especially prioritize fresh food machines. And if it's a firmware update or something as just little as sending someone out there, do it. It's not even a question. The ROI is there. The next step where it gets a little bit trickier is just, okay, you might have to replace a board on some of these pieces of equipment. And that could be, in addition to the labor and cost to go out and do it, it could be a $400 one-time expense. On our fresh food machines, we decided we're going to do that right away. Now, even if something needs a board upgraded, if it's a drink and snack machine, we looked at the accounts where it was going to get us 100% implemented at the account, and we started there by updating boards. And then the last thing we'll move, if we need to make a $400 board upgrade to be RPC capable, is to assets that don't fall in those two categories. So if you go about it slow and that way for anything new, I think that's the best case. The other thing that has been, great timing with RPC is we're already having to go out to our machines for projects currently. Everyone had to get EMV compliant recently, or 3G was sunsetting, and you were needing to upgrade to ePorts anyway, even if you were on top of, your devices and keeping them up to date. The EMV really threw kind of the industry for the loop. So a lot of times you already had to go and do that anyway. So why not just make RPC part of that project? For us, we parlayed it with, we were increasing with price increases going up. We had to pay attention to our credit card surcharges. We had to take that from 10 to 15 cents per swipe and change the stickers by law to stay in inbounds in Ohio. We implemented customer service features like Zippy Assist, so where we had to be at the machine and put a sticker on the machine. So trying to get as much out of those stops and special stops as possible, we had a lot of success with too. It was just really good timing for us because we really needed to be at that machine, probably for something else anyway. So that's the way we attacked it, and we had a lot of success with it.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick and Shawn. So let's move. I know we have just a couple minutes here, almost at the top of the hour. So want to let you guys go, but would love to answer. We have a couple questions that I've seen come in terms of our Q&A as we wrap it up here. The first one has to do with cost. What does RPC cost look like? Is it pay by machine? And this is a great question, of course, right? Probably the number one question. Yes, RPC is a cost per machine. In terms of specifics, I would encourage you guys to reach out to your sales manager or your account manager. The pricing of RPC is dependent on a variety of factors. And it's hard to give a kind of universal sort of approach to it. So I'd just encourage you guys to reach out to your sales manager or account manager if you are already a Seed customer. And if you're not a Seed customer, feel free to reach out. We'd love to work with you. But it is a per machine cost structure. Our next question, what is the timeline of implementation? Jason, curious if you're able to speak to that one.
Yeah, timeline of implementation's typically not all that long. Really, the majority of what any time would be if you have to go touch the machine physically, right? So if you have to do a firmware update or you have to do, an upgrade board, or if you got to swap out the device, that's where really all the time's at. When you start looking from the back end as far as, devices, if you already got e-ports on everything, firmware updates on those run basically overnight. We queue those up, we push out the updates. The next day, most of those, if not all of those, are going to drop off of the list. Same thing with the door codes. That's a one button thing that we can click on our side. It creates a script and then sends that out to all the devices and changes those basically overnight. So I can't put like a timeline on it. My typical timeline, Shawn, you might be able to give more info on that. I mean, you guys got really good numbers on your compatibility. And you haven't actually been on Seed all that long. So you guys rolled this out like pretty dang quick, and you have a really high rate of compatibility.
Yeah, so we what we did was when we made the switch over from Venmax, I hired through Cantaloupe Service an installer to come out and kind of help us crank out on the devices. Frank Borelli came out and we did 500 devices in 5 weeks, and it was a marathon. It was beyond successful. I was anticipating some headaches and some just things, and no, it went unbelievably smooth. And that's my recommendation for, like, if you're new to the Seed Pro, it just makes sense on paper in your operation. Plus my my service technicians love the G11 e-ports. They're so much more simple than the crane piece, and they're damn near bulletproof. So we did that. Another great feature is on that compatibility report that they give you in Seed, it tells you what firmware you need. It doesn't just say, oh, you need an upgrade. It gives you the specific version to make that work. And I put my service manager on it. He reached out to the manufacturers, and you went through and we just kind of cranked it out. We use a lot of bottler beverage machines, and we've done a good job staying on top of all of that stuff, just because you had to with the crane devices. But now, it made that process even more seamless. I think we're sitting at 486 or 494 machines that are in that 90% range. And I would definitely reach out about that service. It's paid for itself over and over again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And we will wrap up here. I know we're just over time. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out. Again, if you're already working with one of our sales managers or account managers, you can also just email me, bhilton@cantaloupe.com. I would be happy to answer what I can or redirect you as needed. Again, I apologize as we're at time here. We would love to answer those questions. Shawn, Patrick, Jason, thank you guys so much. All of our attendees, thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day. We hope it was helpful. Again, we at the end of the day, we want this to be something that's helpful, whether you use the tool, whether you don't, whether you work with us, whether you don't. We just hope it's something that is somewhat helpful for you in terms of navigating the business journey. Guys, thank you. And I hope everyone has I guess it's crazy. Thanksgiving is next week. So happy early Thanksgiving, everyone. And we will see you at our next webinar.